Great. So, as many of you know, my name is Jonathan Defez. I work here in business development at Optimum Networking, and I'm going to get started with today's agenda. We will start with a brief introduction of Optimum Networking, although I think everybody on this call is a current client of ours. Some of you may not be as familiar with everything we do, depending on your role in the company, so it'll be a quick overview of that. Then I will be going over what Microsoft 365 is and some of the business advantages our customers enjoy that maximize it to the most to their abilities, and that's sort of what we're talking about today. Next, I'd like to ask you guys some questions. So this is the participatory part. At that point, I ask you to come off mute and basically say, based on the questions, do you experience any of the challenges or the issues those questions pose? Then we did get some questions from you as you registered. I will be introducing our SharePoint administrator and the person that's going to be hosting our demo today. Jud will kind of jump in and address some of those questions or talk about where he will talk about them in the demo. And then there's the fun part. We're going to get into the demo itself. I do want people to, either consider, come off mute, or I will be keeping a close eye on the chat. So if people have questions, throw them in the chat and I will raise them to Jud if you don't want to kind of chime in. So any questions before we get started? Okay, great, let's get started. So Optimum Networking, we were founded in 1995. And last year was our 25th anniversary. We were going to have a big party, but it didn't happen. Maybe we'll have a big 26th party at some other point. Our mission is helping people succeed with technology. So this is what I love about this particular workshop and the other workshops we do. I believe that this workshop is an extension of this mission. The Microsoft 365 tools are a great example of how we can deliver on helping people succeed with technology. Our core values include integrity, trust, optimism, gratitude, commitment, and being service-minded. And we cover everything, including server support, our users, maintaining networks, backups, cybersecurity. We have a whole workshop just based on that, and IT strategic planning. Any questions before I go on about Optimum Networking? Yeah, I didn't think so. Thank you very much. All right, so let's jump into Microsoft 365. I know this goes a little bit quickly. So again, if questions come up, please ask them and I'll slow down. But really, this is just the overview before we get to the demo. I like to spend the bulk of the time on that. Microsoft 365 is based on a monthly subscription. Most of what we will be showing today is built in the base package, so not extra bells and whistles, to be sure. But if you would like to extend different features, or if you see something that maybe you've heard about, we have licensing specialists that we can talk about, and we can do that in a separate meeting. It is entirely based in the Microsoft Cloud, and essentially it does three things: replaces your local Exchange or email to a third-party platform. It provides for centralized communications. It also offers cloud storage for individuals and for the organization as a whole. So we're going to break down and look at each of these in turn. In terms of the hosted Exchange, before, if those of you can remember, you would either have your Exchange on a hosted server or not a hosted server, but a premise server at your location, or you would host it with a provider. We did that back in the day for some of our clients, and there was just companies that all they did was host Exchange. Now, through Microsoft 365, your email is hosted in the Microsoft Cloud with all the security that they built into the Exchange features, and it's, as it's always been, entirely integrated with Outlook. Things like shared calendaring, shared contacts, everything that you get from Exchange. Now, centralized communication, we'll see a lot about this in the workshop, but I want to say now, and a lot of questions came across about this, when you're communicating, particularly with your team or even with key vendors or even clients, you no longer have to rely on email. I mean, I know email is an effective tool, but oftentimes people can get bogged down in email. So now there's a much better way to communicate, and that is through Teams. And that's something that we'll be looking at quite extensively today. And last but not least, cloud storage. This gives you automatic cloud storage. So you're not saving to a local hard drive or other devices. Now, we have two things here, OneDrive and SharePoint. A lot of folks say, well, what's the difference? Well, Jud will go into more technical differences, but you can think of OneDrive as your own personal cloud storage. You can use this instead of saving onto your workstation or hard drive, but you can also share documents with others, both inside and outside of your organization. So obviously, besides it being automatically backed up in the Microsoft cloud, that's a huge difference than it just being on your workstation. Now, SharePoint is designed to be a central repository of documents for the entire company. So think of this as more of a company share drive or an intranet. You can set up pages, access control, all different types of cool things within SharePoint. Now, on the technical side, Jud will show you, ultimately SharePoint is the engine, or if you will, the platform or the background to everything you'll see today. Teams, OneDrive, document sharing. It's just a matter of how you want to tailor it and how you want to utilize it within your organization. So any questions so far about the general Microsoft overview, Microsoft 365 overview? Okay, I'm going to move forward. I'm not sure. I'm looking at the chat right off. So if you have chat questions, I'll be checking them in a minute. Okay, so let's go through some of the key advantages of the Microsoft 365 platform. First, with these tools, you now have the same capabilities of large enterprise companies. So this is really something that levels the playing field. If somebody's working for your organization and then just goes to work for a Fortune 500 or larger, they will really be used to and seeing the exact same tools. Another huge one is security. Now, that is a question that came across in the chat, and Jud might talk a little bit more extensively about that. As I mentioned, we do have an entire workshop just around security, but understand that other platforms, other folks that use multiple platforms, it's just not as secure. You're talking about the Google Drives out there, the Dropboxes, these types of things don't have the same level of security that Microsoft has. So that's one aspect. The other aspect is the more tools, the more applications, the more things you're using in your organization. That's just consider that weak points, right? The more entry points, the more vulnerability you have. By creating one platform that is secure as Microsoft, that reduces your risk of cyber breaches. I'm not saying it eliminates it, but it certainly reduces it. You can communicate, share documents, do video calls with members inside and outside your company. So this is not just an internal tool. I mentioned this in the invite if nobody picked up on it. In most cases, and also in my other workshops, I'm doing these presentations over Teams, over the tool that's offered through Microsoft 365. The only reason I'm using Zoom for this is so that we have a third-party platform so we can just show more cool stuff. But everything I'm doing now, everything you're seeing now, can be done over Teams. You have lots of offsite storage. It includes the full Office suite in both cloud and on your desktop. So keep that in mind as well. Back in the day, you had to buy a subscription to Word, and then when everything was updated, you had to buy another subscription of Word. This keeps all of your applications up to date and patched and protected ongoingly, so you don't have to pay for that again. Last but not least, for some of you out there, you may already have these tools and you're paying for them with your basic licensing, but you may not be utilizing them. So we have run into folks that are using many things and paying for many things like Slack, like Dropbox, like other communication tools, and they're paying for those and they're paying for Microsoft, knowing that they could get rid of a lot of things, unify that, save money, become more secure, just have that unified platform. So I'm going to jump into some questions we have for you to see if anybody finds themselves in this situation. And then this is the part where I'd like you to maybe unmute and share some of the issues, concerns, questions you might have. and this will help us make this a more helpful, useful seminar or workshop for you. So tell us about it. Do you struggle with communicating with your team in a dispersed environment? I know that question came across as well. Do you worry about productivity now that everybody is remote, or many people are remote, and some of them aren't coming back to the office, right? Are you irritated by documents saved in various places, lack of version control? This is sort of the, I work on a spreadsheet, I email it to you, you work on a spreadsheet, you email it to somebody else, and then you don't know where the versions are saved. Somebody saves it on a hard drive, somebody saves it someplace else. Are you faced with that type of issue? Do you get bogged down in email for hours at a time? We touched on that a little bit. How do you feel about the fact that your documents and communications are potentially vulnerable to hacking and cyber attacks? Are you operating and paying for various platforms that don't communicate with each other? We've talked about that a little bit. And can many people access content or documents? Can you do things like co-collaboration or simultaneous collaboration? So we have lots of folks on the call right now, and I'd love you kind of unmute and jump in and see if any of these issues you're facing or anything else that I'm missing here. You know, it's funny, they say that the bigger the crowd, the quieter the crowd, right? People don't want to speak up, but and that's fine. We'll have more time to ask questions in the demo if you'd like, but in a minute, I'm going to show the questions that you guys asked us, and Jud will begin to address that. Those of you that did ask questions, you'll recognize them, and if you'd like to, you can kind of elaborate or kind of own that question. But without further ado, I'm going to introduce Jud Connelly. He is our SharePoint administrator here at Optimum Networking. He handles quite a bit from the standpoint of SharePoint builds, migrations, consulting, project work, this type of thing. He's a real expert in this. He really is our go-to resource for all things SharePoint teams and the Microsoft 365 platform. Jud, do you want to kind of unmute and introduce yourself just a little bit?
Hi, everyone. I recognize some names on the board, so good to see you guys again. Yeah, if anyone has any questions, if you can hold off to the end, or if it's pertinent in my demonstration, please do the hand or whatnot. JD.
Perfect. And don't forget to put them in the chat too, and I can save those towards the end as well.
Let me take this.
All right, very good. Speaking of questions, Jud, these are some of the questions that came over the registration. So can you kind of address each one of these and either answer it or let them know, or kind of give them a heads up to where they'll see them in the presentation or in the demo?
So the first question is how we use Teams in lieu of such email. Teams can be used where there's a chat or a post where you can chat with specific individuals within the team, and that stayed within that team unless other members are invited to that team via the owner, and I can demonstrate that. How we streamline communications and avoid stale email. Was that you, Bernie, that asked that question?
Yes, Jud, it was. I'm glad you recognized my crazy language.
What did you mean by that, Bernie?
So what I often find is that when we are not all together in the office, often someone will send a group email, and others will jump to respond, sometimes not include everybody on the reply all, and people by the time people get to see the email, it's either too late to pitch in, or you know, they're not replying to the whole group. So I'm curious if there's a trick to try to hold conversations, you know, so that everybody gets to participate rather than people being excluded.
Sure. Yeah, and I can demonstrate that within Teams too, Bernie, where the chat, even if a user would come in late to the chat, within all the posts, that's always going to be there, so they'll be able to see the entire chain Whereas a reply all, someone could remove someone and then the whole conversation is not in sequence, correct?
Correct.
Okay, yeah, I can do that. And then communicate from different locations. This can be done through Teams. I can show that too as well, where you can do the live chat and or call that user or users with a call. If the chat between the users is too much, you can just jump on a call right then as well, which would automatically generate a phone call to each of those users that are in that chat. Teams, how it offers greater security. All security is still managed through Active Directory, and Teams, each team, when a team is created, it's created its own security group, and that's managed by the owner of the security group, because there is at least an owner and a user that would be those groups, but the owner would have the full capability of granting those permissions or not. That's a toggle in the switch for the permissions.
And Jed, I'm going to jump in real quick on that. It's a really great question. And I was talking about external security, like Microsoft in general is highly secure and has a lot of security built into it. But this also offers internal security so that you have people within your organization that you might want to create different permissions and different access. And this helps keep things secure so that people within the organization can only have access to what they need to do their job, frankly, right?
Yes, and I'll go through that. Thanks, JD.
Absolutely.
And the last one, collaboration between Teams and Word or any Office app. JD and I'll demonstrate that, how to myself, and then JD can jump on and you'll see his name appear within the document wherever he's editing, and I can't overwrite anything that he's changing. So that when he's editing the doc and is done, I can still continue and make edits and don't overwrite his changes.
Excellent, Judd. Thank you so much. So I'm going to go through an overview of the demo, and then I'm just going to go ahead and let Judd, I'm going to stop screen sharing and let Judd take it over from there. So the first part of the demo, we'll be talking about presence. That is the basic part of seeing where you are and where other people are on the app itself. Then we're going to do a deep dive into communication. We're going to show individual chats, group chats, notification of read messages. That's one that I like in particular. We can actually translate things. If we have time, we'll show that too. That's kind of cool feature there if you have multilingual teams. And then statistics versioning and there's some fun stuff we can do as well. So that's the first part of the demo, communication. Second one, we're going to show how videos are started and created. So it's kind of going to be kind of a video on video type of action, but there's all sorts of ways that you can do video meetings within your team, as well as with other people, whether they have Microsoft 365 or they're part of your organization or not. And last but not least, and this is sort of gets to that last question, is creating channels, sharing documents, centralized storage, collaboration. We'll be talking about all of these types of things, and Jed will give you that overview of what SharePoint, OneDrive, Teams, channels, these types of things, and how those are all organized. So without further ado on that, I am going to stop sharing. And Jed, go ahead and take it from here.
Can everyone see my screen with the Teams up?
Not yet.
Yeah, I click it and then don't hit share. There we go.
There it goes.
There we go. So this is just the landing page for Teams. Up here you have an activity tab that shows if someone does a like or something like that, like this thumb down here, and it shows the person that actually had done that. Here's the chat that I was talking about. I have everyone that works at Optimum with the individual chat. You can click on any of these and you can start typing a message, and I can type it to a user I know that's on the phone. And you can see that her status says it's in a meeting, because I believe Michelle is in this meeting. And I can text something to her, text it, Teams it. And then if Michelle has it, then she can respond. If I see that she reads it, it'll show that it's seen, and then there she's seen it, and you can see her typing below. The Teams tab, this is more of a chat, so I call it just an internal chat. You can chat with external users as well, but that organization has to allow you to be a guest within their environment. And then you're able to chat only to that team or section within SharePoint. I'll add SharePoint in there that they would be able to access. They wouldn't be able to access any other link that was provided to them without being granted that access to that location. Here's another one. This user, Kevin, he's out of office, but you'll see the different icons in this user's away, and you'll see it kind of there. Within the there's a calendar here within a team, but the Teams has its own calendars. This is all the Teams meetings will show up here, and this is a replica actually of my calendar in Outlook. So here, this is the meeting that we're in that I'm already joined, then also shows you the timeline down here. Within the chat here, I'll show you as well. There's a drop down here to show contacts. And let's say that there's a user that I want all of these, let's say JD's in a meeting right now, and I want to be alerted when JD becomes available. I can click this group here and then say notify when available. And then this will notify me when JD becomes available within Teams and doesn't show the busy or in a meeting icon.
I'll do that in just a second here.
There's also things you can add, emojis in here too, if you want to get fun with that as well. That's another option. And then you'll see here, you don't see it on my screen, but now JD is available right there. So. I'll use the other user, I'll use Michelle again, and I'll show you how the language could be transitioned as well. If I send gracias to Michelle, she can then within there, she can remove, Michelle, why don't you send me gracias or someone else send me? Can you do that, JD? There we go. I don't want that. Am I missing that, JD, right now?
Yeah, it should be. Yeah, it should be right there, but maybe you don't have it.
Maybe I turned it off. But there is an option that it would turn gracias into thank you, if I know my Spanish correctly. So let me go to the teams that we were talking about. This is a team. All of these teams I've been granted access to these teams. And within each team, there's the name of the team. And then these are called channels. So each channel has its own content, has its own posts, files, and then you can add other apps to each of the teams like a wiki, or here they added a contact list. What I was going to demonstrate was our demo team here. And JD, I was in here and this was one of the questions, and I believe it was in regards to work. But I'll show, this is all the content here within our team called demo team. There's 2 channels called general, everything else, and then 1 channel is hidden. And this could just be an old team that we didn't want to remove or delete, but kind of archive, so we just hide it. So what you'll see here is pretty much is the back end of SharePoint. And you'll see up here in the right-hand corner, there's an open in SharePoint. And if you click that, it'll open this team, demo team, within SharePoint, and you'll see the same file structure, especially this one. 365 workshop demo. And I'll show you here. Here's 365 workshop demo. So you can kind of see that it's exactly the same. Version history is as easy as clicking the 3 vertical dots when someone was asking if there was version history and if you could revert. Right here, there's only one version. Let me. One. Let me see if I find one that has one. Here's 2 versions. So the initial version was back in 2020 by JD and then edited again by Bill, 11.3. They didn't add any comments, so I don't know what they changed, but if for some reason this copy, which is the most current version, was not the one that you had wanted, you can always have the option to click the drop down here and view it or restore it, which would then restore it to the newest version, and this current version would drop down. And within here, permissions, we have demo team owners. So there's one user is an owner, and then we've got a members team, and then everyone can read. So this kind of shows you the permissions that are on here. So the demo team I know is only 4 people, and here they are, as you can see that. Here it is. So these are the only users that have access to this demo team. If someone wanted access, access can't be granted here. It has to be granted at the admin level or whoever's managing the Active Directory. Are there any questions right there? I may have jumped all over on that Teams, but I got a little bit more.
I don't see anything in the chat.
Okay. So for example, in JD, are you in the demo team general?
I am.
I'm going to I'll open up an Excel file example here. And so the document will open up, and keep in mind that this backend, this file is being backed up and is stored within SharePoint. I'm going to edit it. I'm going to open it in desktop. Try this again. Are you in there yet, JD?
I am.
Why am I hung up now?
And I did make an edit. I'm not seeing it on yours yet.
Not either, and I'm hung up. On this one here?
Yep, file example.
Well, anyway, let me try a different one, JD. There's a Word document here underneath there.
Should I do the Word one instead?
Yeah, I'm going to try it.
Sorry about this, folks. Hang on.
And up here, it should show JD coming into the document. Are you seeing it on your end, JD?
It's pulling it up. Hang on. Edit document.
see it. Let me close this.
Hang on.
Let's just go to a different one within the general tab in files.
Hang
JD.
on. Let me. Hang on. I got it.
Okay.
I may have this one. Hang on, because there was two of them.
Yep. You have the most recent one open?
I think so. I've got them both open now, so I've done something with both. Do you not see me yet?
Let's see. There I see JD
Yep, there I am.
has this document open. Do you have any editing on it? Are you editing it at all?
I am putting some edits in there. I don't see them quite yet.
I don't either. But in other words, this will show up with JD in Excel. It's actually a better visual because it'll show JD's movements within the Excel spreadsheet here. And maybe I can show that at the end too. I don't want to take up any more time on that. Within Teams, and I'll show my Outlook calendar. I'll go to the calendar, how the calendar works. You can create an entry in Teams, a calendar entry if you wanted to. Where you would add the title here. You can type in the users' names that you would want. Set the date, just whatever you want. You can add a channel if you want to, where it gives you a slick drop down if you wanted to add the channel to it for kind of the subject heading for the meeting, and the do not repeat. And you can add the location here as well. When that is created, it'll show up like this kind of a content. But you can also create it within Outlook that then would create it in here. So I'll set up a Teams meeting for 3 o'clock today within Outlook and show you that. So I'll set up a meeting, and it's just as simple as creating a new meeting. In the tab up here, when you have Teams installed, you have a Teams meeting. So you can click that. When you click that, it automatically formats, puts in the location, the Teams meeting, the link, and a phone audio number. If you just wanted to dial in. So I'll go. We'll say 3 to 4. I'll send it. It shows up here within my Outlook calendar. And in Teams, I probably have to accept it. And Teams should refresh. There it is right here. It's not instantaneous, and that's the same case as if you're to sync a SharePoint calendar to your Outlook calendar, but it'll show up here. It won't have the join button until it gets close to the 15-minute reminder and then the join button. That shows you an example there of how it replicates on both sides. Also, if I'm chatting with a user within Teams, if I'm chatting, I can actually call them as well in the upper right-hand corner. So if a chat was going over and over and over, and I was talking earlier in the meeting, we can also just call and invite other people to that call. So you could do a quick jump to phone meeting there and record it. It's the same way as we've seen here in Zoom. You can record that meeting. After the meeting's recorded, I can show you. You'll see the meeting here was recorded. You can take three dots here. You can get the link to post it to everyone else in your environment if you wanted to. You can also create this, because Stream comes with this, where you can do the transcription of the meeting as well. So it'd be video and transcription if any typing was done or talking that can be transcribed.
I'm going to jump in real quick here,
Yeah.
just on the chat side, to address potentially Bernie's question on communicating with multiple team members. You can create these multiple person chats. You have a choice. You can either do it through Teams or through channels that Jud will show you in a few minutes, or you can just, if you know like a certain core group of people are always communicating about certain things, you can add people to the chat, and then that will always be there. Those 3 or 5 or whatever amount of people, or even 2 people, will always have that sort of joint chat. And then what I like about it too, Jud, if you want to click on that files tab, any files that you share within that group or with that person will be saved right there, so that you can say, oh yeah, remember I sent you this, and they'll still stay updated. So that's a very nice way to communicate sort of with a tight group of people. And you can expect, you get little notifications, little pop-ups when people add to that chat, and it goes on your mobile, and it's a very good way for a group of people to communicate outside of email. So you're not waiting. I mean, I've done it so that I've sent somebody a big email or a proposal or something that needs attention, and what I've done is I've gone into chat and say, I just sent this email to you. Can you check it out? Because we all know how bogged down you get an email, but they're going to be keeping their eye on that chat because it's a little more real time. Does that make sense?
Yes. And how do you add someone into the chat? Is it that plus sign?
You need to, it's the 3 dots. And I'm not an admin on this one, Bernie, so I can't show. Here it is. Here's the members. You can add people here.
Okay.
Or I can yank myself out too, or someone can pull me out.
Great.
But no matter if you pull David out or anyone else and add someone else in, this chat will stay the same.
Got it.
This will all be there. I have not found a way that this can even be deleted. So, and then the files again are tied to SharePoint, which would, if they were deleted, they would be in the recycle bin for SharePoint that everyone would have as well.
Great.
And then another little thing here, just showing presence and whatnot. You see my picture up here with the red, it says I'm in a meeting, but I've been shared Teams with a couple other customers that we have that I can switch to their environments automatically and pick up documents that they've dropped in, because I would get notified with something like this with the red number 1 up here, saying that there was some sort of activity, and I can see that. I'd see that warning, and not a warning, but just a hey alert, there's something waiting for you. And then here I can always change my availability and my status however I want. If you wanted to be available, this will automatically change depending on your calendar and what your schedule is. And then also we've been playing around with this where we've tried to maybe test around the status message saying, hey, Jud's in the office today, or Jud's out at 2 o'clock, that type of thing. That if I set that, if anyone Teamses me, they'll have that comment up here at the top of the chat, just alerting that user that.
So Jud, I'm catching up a little bit on the chat here. I think we answered this question, the second of the 2 questions, which is, can you add people into the meeting chat if you did not create the meeting? And that's a yes, correct?
That is a correct yes.
Yeah, and then the other question.
Those permissions can be altered depending on your environment.
I'm sorry, repeat that. I was talking over you.
Those permissions can be changed at the root level of the Teams admin center. We've allowed all of us to add us to any of the groups except for the C level.
Very good. So there's another question about the on the version or on the co-editing. So does it show things as redline version changes, or does it just highlight the edits? Does that make sense?
Kind of does. Good question. I haven't worked with red lines. The red lines would stay in the document. And as I can understand it, editing any of the red lines would change that. So it would be reflected that that user had made a change. And I think the example is where it shows that this user liked this way of presenting the sentence better than this way, correct? Kind of a grammar check, and then showing that JD made this change here, Bernie made this change here, that type. Is that what the question, JD?
I believe so. And Michelle, if you want to unmute to qualify a little bit. That answers it. She says yes. And one last one, and I think I know this one, Jud, but confirm. She's talking, and I'm sure people also notice that oftentimes their status will just go to busy without them necessarily changing it. Doesn't it parallel what's going on in your Outlook calendar in terms of whether you're in meetings or not?
That is correct. But if you're in a meeting, you could always say you're available, but it'll automatically change depending on, even if you set your status to go away after 15 minutes, I think that's the default, or 30 minutes, but that can be changed. All of those settings can be changed personally.
Very good. Thanks for those questions.
I'll show the team here. We've got the demo team, and you can create a channel here. You can add a channel, and I can add a member. I'm going to add a channel here, and we'll call it workshop. You can add a description here. And then privacy, you can make it private so that only JD and I can see this, or you can make it accessible to everyone. It's normally set to accessible for anyone. And did it not create that channel? And here's the channel. So it comes vanilla there's no post. So you'd be the first person to make a conversation here. You can always mention someone else by doing the @, and then you can type in their name. Just start typing their name and they'll show up because it's joined to AD. And what this does is this will give Jonathan a little ping in his activity up here that Jud was asking him a question. And then here's the files again, that there's nothing there, but you can see in SharePoint, it's connected to SharePoint here and there's no content.
So Jud, my understanding of channels are you create a team for potentially like a department of the company. Maybe it's a marketing department, maybe it's a finance department, maybe it's a sales department, that type of thing. And then maybe subsets of that department might have certain projects that are specific to a certain vein of communication. So you create channels for that. Is that the way you see that as well?
Are you talking to me? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So let's give an example. I use HR. This could be human resources team. One channel could be onboarding. One channel could be offboarding. One channel could be medical open enrollment, that type of thing, so that each of these channels are specific to something underneath the umbrella team. And then each can host their own files, and security is around the entire team itself. And normally my standard practice is that the owner of the team is given the responsibility of managing their users and adding or removing. And one thing that's been asked quite recently is can these permissions be audited? And that is something that can be done. So
a good question just came up on the chat, Jud. which is, can you chat with a person who does not have Teams while you're in Teams?
You cannot. That user would have to have a Microsoft account in order to chat within Teams. There's the free app with Teams that'll give you like a 30-day free demo that'll allow you to get phone calls and emails, but that user would have to set that up. And then after 30 days, that free license is gone.
Now, that being said, Judd, if you're in a Teams video call, though, there's a chat function for that, correct? And you don't necessarily have to have Teams to chat with that.
That is totally correct, because you were invited to that meeting for the Teams meeting, so you have permissions to do the chat. You can't add anyone else because that's the ownership of the team meeting organizer. But yes, they can chat, they can share documents, all of that. They can share their screen. So I've done that before with the customer that I couldn't get to their machine. So I sent them a Teams link. I got that linked on, then when they were able to share their screen with me, and I was able to see it visually instead of going in blind. And that's just an example that I use quite often as well from an IT side.
Very good, thank you.
And I'll go to SharePoint a little bit. SharePoint is really what I call the document repository, or the single source of truth, where most content would be, that's where it stays. And I sometimes call that as the record. Whereas other copies of that document could be somewhere else, but I'm trying to think of the word I normally use. The document of record is the one that would be stored within SharePoint, and that's where Teams uses that as well. And here's the recycle bin I was talking about earlier, if you see my screen, where it shows it, who deleted it, and you can always restore anything from the recycle bin. And when you return things from the recycle bin, it's going to go to the same exact location as to where it was deleted. And something with SharePoint, everyone has their own personal recycle bin that stays in this bin for 30 days. So you can always, if you accidentally deleted something or did delete something, but you want it back, you can always restore it. If it, after the 30 days, it goes to the administrator's recycle bin for 60 days. So at that point in time, the administrator can grab those files and restore those for the user if requested. So just so you know that there's 90 days of content in the recycle bin that can be restored if it's remembered before the 90 days. And SharePoint can be collaborated externally as well. I don't see that very frequently. That's why I say it's a single point of truth. So all the content is there internally just for your organization. Teams is kind of more the collaboration. I can share files with outside customers as I've granted them access. The process of that is, the user sent a link to the email address that they requested to have access to, and they have to click on that link to verify that, and then at that time they become a member. But if they don't click that link that's sent to them, they won't have access until they do that first initiative. But that request can always be sent again too. So one other thing with SharePoint. So here's a SharePoint site, our professional services, and these are the documents that I work on. And this could be a team site as well. But what I can do here is I can add a shortcut to my OneDrive, which is is just a shortcut, so that you can edit those documents in the cloud real time. You can also sync the documents, which I prefer. You can sync those down to your machine, and all of this content will be available to you 24/7 with or without an internet connection. So even without an internet connection, if you're working in any files in here, so I'm going to say sync, and I'll show you the example because a lot of users don't use SharePoint for editing, but actually use File Explorer. So I have SharePoint here, you'll see the little building icon. That's the icon for SharePoint being synced down. It's professional services documents. And then you'll see general and the 2 documents here. And if I click in general there, you'll see all these documents here. So the blue cloud means that it's synced between the cloud, SharePoint, and my machine. So if I make any type of a change here within File Explorer and save it, create a new document in here, that will upload, sync to SharePoint and update this area and everyone else's OneDrive if they've synced that content to their machines automatically. And even if you're editing the content offline and you save it back to your file share, once you get an internet connection or connect to your network, it's automatically going to refresh and set and refresh all those documents for you and make any updates that you had done. And I'll jump, if there's not any questions on that, I can jump to permissions because I jumped on audit and I thought I could show permissions again real quick too.
I don't see any questions in chat on as of yet, but guys, feel free to jump in if you'd like.
So this is what I consider a document library, and I'll show you the back end of SharePoint. These are all document libraries, and within libraries are folders and files. So normally permissions are set at a library level, because you can have as many libraries as you want. You can set these up to specific to wherever you want, and then each library, you can manage the permissions directly on that folder if you wanted to. So you could remove people, you can add people, that type of thing. And usually that's the job of an administrator, but I've trained users on how to do that as well. So, but you can go as granular as remove everyone and just add 2 people. Just know that you're the only 2 that will ever see those documents. So, but I prefer doing the permissions at a top level, a site level for everyone that they can read, and then the content be in libraries where that content can be secured down by permissions. JD, I think I've gone through everything that I think of.
Yeah, and great job. Thank you.
Oh, one other thing in Teams, kind of cool I've been using. You know how email, you get an email, and Bernie, and this could go to the email clutter and not responding to the most recent email too. People will send you messages. You'll, like here, I haven't read this. I click on it, it'll say it's read. Like, let's say I want to go back to it, you can mark it as unread as well. And you can also mute the entire chat that you'll never get alerted that something's happening, but that's just another option.
And Jud, did you show the little check off with the eye that shows you that something was read? Because I like that a lot.
This one up here.
The little, yeah, the little. Go back to the chat. And then just go to like one between you and Tina or whatnot, and you'll see a little indication that meeting has been seen. Yeah, you see that, gracias, right? That shows that person has seen that chat. For me, that's huge because sometimes you send an email, you don't know if somebody's seen it or not. But now when you send a group email or group message like this or message to somebody, you know they've seen that by then. So I like that feature as well. Okay, great. I'm going to go ahead and conclude a bit here. Appreciate, again, your help with that.
Okay, got it back.
Did that work? We'll try it one more time. Hang on, guys. There we go. Do you guys see the conclusion screen now?
Yes. No. There it is.
Got it?
Yep.
Okay, so hopefully we're able to see you got the productivity tools, you got the security, and keep in mind for those folks who want to implement this, it can be top down, but a lot of it is bottom up. A lot of it is just getting people used to it and playing with it. I always say about any sort of software or any type of intervention like this, it's got to be useful. It's got to be simple. And if it's not both of those things, oftentimes people will just try to go with their own means. So a lot of education, sometimes some patience, but I know that we have adapted this over the past several years, and quickly it got to the point where I just didn't know what I would do without it. So, and last but not least, we're running short on time here, but last but not least, we will, on Thursday, July 8th, that's in 3 weeks. I know a lot of folks on this call have been to this, but we will be having our cyber security awareness workshop. That is an excellent overview of everything we're doing to keep you and your employees and your clients safe. A big part of the battle is just being aware and understanding the threats out there. So I know that all of you have security awareness training built into your plans. If you don't, definitely talk to your account manager and get that set up. But this workshop is very eye-opening, to say the very least, and it kind of gives you that idea. So if you've not been to this workshop, the registration will be coming out and the invite will be coming out early next week. Also, if you have been to it, feel free to send that to a coworker, a colleague, or somebody who you feel like would benefit from the information. Everybody's welcome. So with that, I appreciate everybody's time. I think we're right at 1:30, and thank you again for taking some time. And I'm sure everybody's day is very busy. I hope everybody that got one enjoyed their Grubhub gift card, and you enjoyed some food along with this presentation. And I will be sending out the presentation. I will also be sharing the video link as well, because we did record this. But if questions came up, feel free to reply to that email with any questions, and Jud or I will certainly address those. So happy Thursday. Have a great day tomorrow and a great weekend. And thank you again for being Optimum Networking clients and trusted partners.